In June 2013, Facepunch founder Garry Newman put it in plain English. Rust started off as a DayZ clone. Months later, the game still shipped with zombies on Steam. Then, in a February 2014 update, Facepunch deleted them and wrote the line that still hangs over the whole origin story. We are no longer a zombie survival game. If you only know Rust as the naked rock, the rock to the skull, the base raid at 3 in the morning, that sentence lands wrong. Zombies? A DayZ clone? The version people mean when they say games like Rust is a player-only survival sandbox. Getting from Newman's own clone admission in June 2013 to that identity took until February 2014. Early access sales, press that still called the game DayZ meets Minecraft, and one studio decision that finally cut the undead out of the build. Before the free alpha, project lead Helk had been building Rust for roughly 6 months. That figure comes from Newman's own June 2013 post, not from a separate internal milestone date. Helk casually put the free alpha out, then went on vacation. Facepunch was the studio behind Garry's mod. DayZ was the open-world survival phenomenon of the moment. Newman did not hide the lineage. On 21 June 2013, he published The Story of Rust. The pivot is all there, in his words. Rust started off as a DayZ clone. But then we decided that we are sick of fighting zombies and can't compete with the Arma Island in terms of landmarks and towns, so it's in more of a stalker kind of world where you build your own buildings. This also opens the way up for non-zombie enemies like mutants, wolves, and whatever, but your biggest enemy is always going to be other players. That is not later marketing. That is the founder, in public, the week of the free alpha. Polygon covered the release 3 days later and restated the same origin. DayZ clones start, sick of fighting zombies, cannot match Arma-scale landmarks and towns, a player-built world, other players as the biggest threat. Newman also drew a hard line on systems that would color-code killers or rate people for PvP. One of our main aims with Rust is to not control how people behave directly, he wrote. Some players wanted a rating, or killers turned red as a warning. Newman's answer was blunt. I hate that. It's not giving the players freedom. The players should decide how they play the game. You should be fearful of others. That is the whole point. The studio's job, in the same post, our job is to give you the tools to allow you to protect yourself. He also described starting naked, like a caveman, as a planned direction to reduce some of the pure PvP pressure, so the design thesis was already written in June 2013. Player-built bases, crafting and tools, fear of other humans, and no morality score hanging over the server, plus a stated desire to move past zombies, even while the product still had them in the world. Rust entered Steam Early Access on 11 December 2013. The zombies were still in the shipping build. Sales moved fast. Facepunch announced more than 150,000 copies sold in about 2 weeks of early access. Press compared that run to roughly 34,000 Garry's Mod copies in its first 2 weeks on Steam in 2006. In a GamesIndustry.biz interview published 20 January 2014, Newman put the shock in proportion. In a month, Rust has made about 40% of what Gmod has made in about 9 years. The team size he stated in that interview was about 15 people. The press frame stuck to the hybrid people already felt. On 9 January 2014, Kotaku's Luke Plunkett wrote that playing Rust feels exactly like playing the game someone made when they thought, wow, wouldn't it be awesome if I could play DayZ and Minecraft at the same time? His thesis for the piece was direct. Rust isn't a game about surviving in the wilderness. It's a game about surviving other people. In the same article, he still died to a zombie in early access. The fourth was to a zombie, because yeah, there are also zombies around. Not as many as you'll find in DayZ, but they're around. A day earlier, in a PC Gamer interview with Andy Kelly, Newman had restated the DayZ love without apology. We love DayZ, and we wanted to make a game like it, so we did. We quickly realized that we couldn't create an explorable world as well done as DayZ, so we came up with the idea of having the player create the world. This was the seed that spawned Rust. We really loved the idea of players starting with nothing and having no goals but to exist in the world. On method. Every decision we make is pushing emergent gameplay. We give them the tools, they make the world. On anti-bandit systems. So one thing that was suggested was making bandits. Making people turn evil, get a negative score if they attack other players. We hate that. People should be nice to each other because they get a nice feeling from being nice. There shouldn't be a system hanging around forcing people to be good. On voice chat, which he said changed things unexpectedly, a lot of the time players attack each other out of fear. They don't want to be the person to die. Being able to talk to the other guy and feel them out that way makes a huge difference. By late January, secondary press covering the coming zombie cut reported early access sales in the range of 750,000 copies since launch about a month and a half earlier. Hexus cited contemporaneous coverage for that scale. Success was the problem as much as the opportunity. The longer zombies stayed in a hit early access title, the easier it was for the game to lock into the just another zombie survival game review box Newman said he wanted to avoid. On 20 January 2014, he admitted the miss out loud to GamesIndustry.biz. DayZ was still kind of our inspiration, and it's why we started Rust in the first place. On the undead still in the product, yeah, we really wanted to get rid of them before we launched on Steam, but kind of failed because we didn't want people reviewing it as just another zombie survival game. We want to remove them, though. We'll probably end up removing them and replacing them with nothing first, then working something else in eventually. We don't want to rush and end up replacing zombies with mutants or something. Players who wanted killers to turn red, he said, have no idea of what we're trying to achieve. Some players and press found that early access world brutal for newcomers. Kotaku's piece sits in that camp, a game that kicks your ass with other people as the real survival test. Newman's position stayed the same as in June. Freedom, fear, tools, not a studio-enforced good behavior system. Both readings were live in January 2014. The zombies were still live too. On 6 February 2014, Facepunch published the 6th Feb update. Under a section headed Zombies Were Removed, the official news copy, unsigned on the live page, so attribute it to Facepunch, not to a named author, said, "Yup, we did it. We decided we couldn't hold off any longer. The longer we keep zombies in, the more complaints we'd get about removing them. We are forcing ourselves to deal with it. We are no longer a zombie survival game. They've been replaced with red bears and wolves. You hate them, we know. They're just plugging a gap for now. All will be revealed." That is the hinge. There is no primary source that DayZ's creators forced, sued, or ordered the cut. It is a studio product decision with motives written into the patch notes. Stop delaying, take the complaint hit now. Stop being classed as zombie survival, and fill the wildlife hole temporarily. Press covered the cut the same week. GameSpot reported zombies gone and replacement with red mutant bears and wolves. Hexus summarized the official update and noted that at the time of the cut, Hexus reported the About page still listed DayZ and Minecraft as influences. IGN headlined that the update removed zombies. The wording that matters for the record is the Facepunch block itself. We are no longer a zombie survival game. The red bears and wolves were not sold as the finished fauna system. Facepunch called them gap fillers in the same post. Players who hated the stand-ins and players who had liked the zombies both had reactions. The update also touched wildlife AI, resource objects, animations, and other systems. The identity change is the zombie deletion and the official genre line that came with it. What stayed after the cut is what Newman had been arguing since the free alpha week. Build your own buildings in a world that will not try to match Arma's town's landmark for landmark. Start with nothing and invent your own reasons to exist. Give players tools instead of a killer rating. Accept that fear of other people is the design, even when that makes early access feel merciless to someone who just bought the game. From June 2013 to February 2014, the public paper trail is short and consistent. Newman called Rust a DayZ clone, then a stalker-style player-built world where other players were always going to be the main threat. Steam still shipped zombies. Sales exploded while press still framed the live product as DayZ plus Minecraft. Newman said the studio wanted the zombies gone before Steam and kind of failed. Then Facepunch removed them, plugged the gap with red bears and wolves, and wrote that they were no longer a zombie survival game. That is why the search question was Rust a DayZ clone has a yes that comes from the founder, and why the game people play is a human threat sandbox instead of an undead one. The February cut is the hinge that locked the identity.